Hey folks, it's Eric from Supported Venture, and in this video I'm going to tell you what to expect when working for a managed service provider, an MSP. This is from a perspective of a remote worker, from someone who has worked with more than 40 different MSPs, and I've been an MSP help desk technician myself, and now I manage more than 40 of them around the world. So I'm going to give my perspective. It might not be everybody's perspective, but I think I have some value to add here. So basically, what is an MSP? Basically, we'll start with that. And an MSP is a company that provides outsourced um, IT services, usually to businesses, and usually on a fixed contract basis. So the idea is instead of having their own internal IT people, that will hire the experts, an MSP that will take that segment of their business and manage it, provide the help desks, the projects, the infrastructure, and basically ensure that that company doesn't have to worry about managing their own IT internally. Now, it's a great model because why I like it is because MSPs can sign fixed contracts with their clients where it's, we're going to cover, 50 workstations for, each of them is going to be $50 a month, and you get $2,500 a month, if my math isn't wrong, of income into your MSP, and that's recurring income every month for the support of those sorts of workstations. And therefore, MSPs have stable budget and they can hire stable staff. So essentially, the MSP jobs are fairly stable compared to if you were working for a break fix sort of smaller IT company where, if they have a quiet month, they're going to have less income and all that stuff. MSPs sell their products and services kind of like an insurance policy to the businesses. So they've got stable income, and they need to have a help desk, and they need to staff it, and they need to have projects. I mean, a lot of MSPs make a lot more money off of projects than they do off of the help desk, but help desk is something that they need to have. So I'm going to focus on what it's like to work for an MSP on the help desk because that's where I have the most experience. What my company does is it finds MSPs around the world who we would like to work with, and we find people who can work for MSPs, and we put them together and manage them and provide insights on how to make that relationship a win-win-win for everybody. So that's my job. That's my company. That's what we do. And it started when I got my first MSP help desk job remotely living from Belgrade, Serbia, and I got a help desk job, so I could work for a London-based company doing their help desk. It was a complete remote position. This was in 2013, and before that, I had always made my living since 1999 when I was 16 years old fixing computers around the neighborhood. So a lot of MSPs start off as that sort of like neighborhood computer service type deal. And, it starts with a guy like me who's good at, fixing computers, gets good at sales, gets around the community, word of mouth spreads. This guy knows his stuff. And, well, he gets more clients he can handle. And then he starts to hire other people. Depending on where you get hired in an MSP's growth and journey, it can be different levels of structure. So if it's just a guy like me and you're my first staff member and you're my remote help desk guy while I'm running around on site installing services and stuff like that, chances are you're going to have a relationship with me. I'll know everything about the clients and I'll have very little documentation, and you'll help the clients as best as you can. And whenever you don't know what to do or you need a decision or some documentation, a password you don't have or something like that, you would talk to me. So that's the small sort of one man going and hiring more people. And, as they add more people, it gets more complicated because, well, you can see that model of constantly escalating and having that sort of close and immediate communication with the owner of the business can get a little bit strenuous after about 5 people are on board, 10 people are on board. It will become a little bit more of a struggle. So if you're joining an MSP that has between 5 and 10 people, they might be a little bit chaotic because their growth has outpaced the structure that they've been able to put in place to support it. And the issue with MSPs is people like me, we start these things and we're really good at figuring out everything and fighting fires and developing innovative solutions on the fly and just snapping them in. And it's often we hire someone who's like us and has some overlapping weaknesses, and structure is not a really emphasized thing of the job. It's more about creative problem solving and client relationships and giving that customer service. So that's not really scalable. So 5 to 10 technicians is where MSPs have that growing pains, where it's too much work, too much is going on the owner, too many lower level tier one technicians are waiting for higher up technicians, tier two, tier three, the owner of the business to get back to them about missing documentation and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're joining an MSP of that size, I would ask them a lot of sort of tough questions in the interview, like how would you rate your documentation from 1 to 10? How do you audit your documentation? Make sure that it's in order. What's your escalation policy? Do you have a dispatcher who handles all of the tickets and the communication, the initial assignment of the tickets, or is it like, are there a bunch of engineers cherry picking tickets off the board? Do I have to answer calls when I'm working? Because that's really stressful. If you're working on one tough issue and the phone rings and you're obligated to answer it, and you have someone else who's putting immediate pressure on you to, you know, get on their problem immediately, and you just get this scattered sort of stressed out. We've seen this actually really cause a lot of harm to the staff well-being at a lot of MSPs and the work that they're doing and the customer service that they're giving, and actually lead to a lot of complaints, and ultimately lead to my company Support Venture not working with that MSP anymore because the people on the contract that we place are just not happy. So if you want to be happy with an MSP, you want to hear about the structure that they have in place, specifically the documentation, who takes responsibility for it, specifically the way tickets are assigned to you, how you're going to get assigned work that is within your abilities, and how, when you cannot solve a piece of work or a ticket that's assigned to you, how can you escalate to someone who can. So the red flags would be, yeah, phone answering. Technicians pull their own tickets from the service board based on, in competition with other technicians, and also the escalation. If the escalation policy is leave it assigned to you and reach out to chat to the people and then wait for a response, I mean, that's a huge red flag for me, because it will be inconsistent, the result that you'll get usually, unless people are not so busy and hyper attentive to the chat. So you want to find an MSP that has been through these growing pains. So I'd say that after 10 technicians, 15, 20, 25 technicians, 30 technicians, they probably have been through the growing pains, to make a structure that makes sure that people aren't going crazy, the clients aren't getting bad service, the technicians aren't getting bombarded with random tickets at random times with no sort of rhyme or reason to what they're doing. So, they've gone through the process of getting a dispatcher who's going to oversee the technicians and their work and what's assigned to them and the next steps, and make sure balls aren't dropped. Because having someone do that, when you're a technician, having someone handle like the stuff that's reaching you and making sure that you're comfortable with it and all that stuff, and that you can do it, you have time to do it, and all that stuff, that's golden. And most MSPs do realize that from 5 to 10 technicians, or else, if they don't, God bless them, but it's not going to be a great place to work, in my opinion, if people are just picking up random calls from random clients, random tickets from the board, and all that stuff. So what to expect from MSPs is that there is an inherent lack of structure in a lot of them, and that you need to see how they're going to account for that. And they'll probably have stories about how they've been there and done that and put in better structure, and then you'll know that you've got a good MSP on your hand. But yeah, the other thing about MSPs is, if you haven't been in that environment before, get ready to learn a lot of things, and it's a very diverse skill set that you need. And you need the ability to learn things really quickly. I'm talking about like 2 minutes, you receive a ticket and you have 2 minutes to research it, and then you're expected to troubleshoot the technology that you've never heard of before. And you troubleshoot that technology on the fly based on your knowledge and intuition on how technology works and how you can best poke around and see what's happening with it, how you can Google and find knowledge-based articles, other forum posts and experiences from other people that have encountered the same problem. And it's very much like you have to be agile to provide solutions, and people who don't have that ability do not do very well in the MSP environment as a technician. They just don't. So if you're the sort of person, if if you've gone to computer science university classes and all that stuff, graduated, did everything, was this top student there, and did everything that the teachers told you to do not be surprised if you do not succeed in an MSP environment, because it's a completely different beast. There's no methodical learn this, then that, then that. No, you have to be the sort of person who can just like take in information and have an almost natural sense of how to solve problems. And yeah, certification often won't help you. Some MSPs are, in my opinion, way too focused on certification of their people and experience with specific technologies, because what they actually need is somebody who can basically just like fly the helicopter and you know well, okay, drive the car, let's say, not fly the helicopter. I know one guy who died learning how to fly one, so bad example. But drive a car, even though that they've never driven a car before, and they'll be like, oh, so I put it in drive. Let's say it's an automatic. I drive stick mostly, it's better. But you put it in drive and you've realized, okay, this is the brake, this is the gas pedal, this is the steering wheel, where are the lights? Okay, here, left, right, okay, here we go. That's the sort of thing that you need to be able to do. So if you're the sort of person who has throughout their lives followed instructions and done well following instructions and gaining expertise based on other people giving you expertise and telling you what to do, probably not going to work for you. Probably you're not going to swim in the MSP environment, because because MSPs are used to hiring people who can figure things out without instructions. MSPs are used to not giving instructions or proper training to their staff and people being able to do it. And it's one of the greatest weaknesses is that lack of structure and training. You'll be given tickets and you have to figure them out based on your own ability to research and understand topics and technologies that you have never encountered before. So, the whole idea of going to school for IT is a little bit flawed in that sense, because the people who are teaching you in those schools, essentially it's their job to teach you a curriculum. And they're not actually in the industry driving results and income for a company like an MSP. And therefore, what they're teaching you might not be relevant on the ground. So I would say that if you want to prepare to do MSP work, you should research the technologies that MSPs use. For example, Office 365. One thing that we do at Supported Venture in our training and testing program to see if someone's got it, meaning what they need to work at an MSP, is we make them go to Microsoft's website, sign up for an Office Enterprise E3 trial, and set it up from scratch with some specs that we've given them, like set up this mailbox for this one, make sure that this person can see this and this and this, and no, 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 no. And they have to do it. They have to set it up from scratch. So if they can do that, if they have the wherewithal to stick through the task and finish it, well, it's going to be a lot better for them than studying what is an Office 365 shared mailbox and how does it work. You could have the answer to that question, but unless you've actually done it, you might be very surprised when you have to do it and Microsoft has changed the panel that you studied. Now, you need to be able to poke around panels, look at settings, understand what they might do, research what they do, try it out, see what it fixes problems, and troubleshoot. So it's a very hands-on skill. It's a very hands-on skill, similar to cooking a dish, meal, different ingredients and all this stuff. You're not going to be working at McDonald's where they're trying to produce just the Big Mac. You're going to be working at some restaurant where you're going to get a bunch of random ingredients and have to put them together in a way that tastes good to the people in the restaurant. So if that's your sort of thing, if you're that innovator, if you're that sort of creative person who looks at the different things that are available and combines them, it's kind of like an artistic sort of thing, creative at least, creative problem solving. And so if you have that, you're going to do well in an MSP. Let me just tell you, we have hired somebody who was an IT chief in the US Navy for 12 years. IT chief sounded really good on the resume, sounded really good on his CV, that he would be the guy who we could get in the job and he would do great. But guess what? He was the worst level 1 tech we hired in recent memory. Then you get a guy who worked in an internet cafe when he was a teenager, setting up LAN parties where him and his friends would play games in the internet cafe, swap out their video cards to get better performance on the games, troubleshoot the networks so that they could play the games with people around the world, troubleshooting latency, setting up, various settings for all of the games, and like everything associated with that is the actual real skill of troubleshooting and figuring stuff out and making stuff happen. We hired a guy like that, and he did really well in the MSP environment. Why? Because he knew how to learn things and he had a passion for learning things. So there's also a passion here. You need to actually have a passion for fixing computer problems. I would say it's a good sign if, like me, you started when you were a teenager doing this. I was 11 when I started. And so if you have that passion, you also have to have the passion for helping people and communicating to them what the what the problem is and how you can help them, or why you can't help them, and managing the expectations. There's a huge component of customer service. So you need to like people, you need to understand people, you need to be empathetic, you need to be good at talking to them, making small talk and business talk, and really being a likable character who they feel they can trust with a device that's very close to them and their life or work life at least. And you will build relationships with people on the help desk. If you're getting the same people again and again, they'll grow to trust you. They'll be happy to talk to you. They'll you can really enjoy talking to the people a lot because you can be their savior. They have a problem, you log in, you tell some funny jokes, give them a little personality and charisma on the phone, and fix their problem. They're going to love you. But if you're the sort of antisocial type who would prefer to just do work alone and not talk to people, if you don't have a persona of customer service and how you can make somebody's day better by understanding their needs, well, maybe MSP stuff is not for you. Maybe you should be a developer. So developers are super technical, and they're the necessity for them to talk to other human beings is a lot less than in the MSP customer facing roles that basically MSPs need, because they're selling support. Okay, we're back, folks. A little blip in the internet. Another thing is, yeah, you need to actually have, if you're going to work remotely for an MSP, you need to have backup internet. So I did this really quickly. I just took my 4G phone out and I just hit mobile hotspot on, switched Wi-Fi connections, and now I'm back with you folks. So that kind of boom, boom, boom. If you're the sort of person where something happens and you're like, what should I do? You're not going to do well in an MSP. So what you should expect is a diversity of technologies, the ability to the need for you to engage with people and be the bridge between people and their technologies. And you should also expect that the more structure the company that you're working for has in place, the more experience they have onboarding technicians like you, especially remotely, and supporting them in getting up to scratch with the systems and the clients and everything, the more you're going to feel at home as a technician, the more you can define the expectations. I mean, in an interview, I would ask an MSP, what's the checklist of how I know if I'm doing my job right? Is there stuff I have to do every day? Do you have that in writing? And if an MSP says that they don't, that's a red flag. Even though it's not a deal breaker, it's a red flag. And the best ones do. And so in starting your career with an MSP, I would say just make sure you're the sort of person who likes learning new things all the time and dealing with people all the time, and essentially being focused on their well-being in terms of their digital life. So thanks a lot. This is Eric from Support Adventure. I'll catch you guys later. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in a remote MSP job, you can apply on our website, and we are constantly looking for the best people in the world, maybe like you, who will work for MSPs, and the best MSPs for them to work for, and putting them together and hopefully making a match that will last for years. We're matchmakers, full-time positions that pay you enough to live where you're at. So just let us know. Thanks a lot. Bye now.